Hello, everybody. This is David Montesano, founder of College Match. Today, what we're going to talk about is how students and parents are facing new challenges to learning. From the digital divide to pass-fail grading, the challenges of getting online support for learning disability accommodations, ACT and SAT test date cancellations, to on-campus summer enrichment cancellations. And the list, as you know, goes on. The challenge for teaching and learning has never been greater. Today's talk will demonstrate how a top tutoring company and a one-to-one K-12 school have created some proven solutions that we can all learn from that will help improve learning while at home for parents and students who are concerned with the quality of current online offerings. This session and interview is directed at providing tools and solutions that will help alleviate your concerns about the challenges brought by online learning in a classroom setting, such as pre-recorded lectures, right? The greatly diminished learning disability support, fewer testing opportunities, and a lack of accommodation as a result of this new reality brought by COVID-19. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jesse Roselin. Jesse is the founder of TutorCore and Pacific Prep, and he has been what is described often by parents as the gold standard in online tutoring and K-12 education. He's created two organizations, TutorCore and Pacific Preparatory Academy. And let me just give you a little bit of background on Jesse. After graduating from Stanford, Jesse spent 2 years doing Teach for America before launching his own tutoring company. And he was doing this out of the back of his Ford Escort, driving around the San Francisco Bay Area. Since then, it's been about 18 years. He's grown his business into 196 teachers who have served thousands of families around the world through the two organizations, TutorCore, which offers tutoring online and in person, and Pacific Preparatory Academy. So after looking at all this stuff, I've observed, and I'm very interested in sharing this with you, that despite the size and growth, everything is personalized and customized to each student's exact needs at TutorCore and at Pacific Preparatory Academy. In fact, one parent recently commented that she was so impressed with how quickly Jesse learned about her daughter's needs and coordinated with the Unified School District to make sure that her kids' high school courses would count toward graduation requirements. So Jesse, your tutoring organization and prep school's caring and professionalism was marked compared to the other organizations that she had worked with. So now we get to the questions. How are you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, David.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I know our audience does. So let me just jump right in. I know that you've got two related organizations, TutorCore and Pacific Preparatory. Would you mind briefly explaining what services are offered by each and how they might help families during this time?
Absolutely. TutorCore is, as the name implies, tutoring. So we have tutors that are very flexible and can come in and provide enrichment or remedial support. So whatever your child is working on, they can jump right in at whatever schedule works for your family, and they can provide that support, whatever subject it is, whether it's AP Bio or beginning language arts work. They come in and then can provide that support to make sure that your child is learning the topics that they need to be learning. Now, Pacific Preparatory School is, as the name suggests, a school. It's a full K-12 school, and it's completely customized for each child. So we create the curriculum, and we have a full course. So that's the main difference. With TutorCore, we're working usually with the material that your child's already working with in their school. And with Pacific Preparatory, we're actually creating that curriculum and creating that course for your child. So if you wanted to enroll in Pacific Preparatory School, you could enroll in one course, or you could enroll in all courses, and you would receive a transcript where you could actually graduate from our school and be fully enrolled. And that's a good viable option for people who want to do that if they're not feeling like they're getting the support that they need from their current school.
Great. What are your recommendations for parents who feel like their kids might be getting behind academically during this period of remote learning? And should they be concerned?
Yeah, as a parent myself, I have three children, and I have one child in kindergarten and one child in second grade, and the others in preschool. And so I can really relate to this topic. I'm myself concerned about my own kids, looking at whether Milo, my kindergartner, is learning to read, and whether Charlotte, my second grader, is getting the support specifically in math, since that's one of her strengths. And we're concerned that she's basically just working through very basic worksheets, and is not very engaged. So again, I'm really seeing this firsthand as a parent and also as an educator. So broadly speaking, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that overall, kids are not getting the level of instruction that they need, and they're not getting the assessment that they need. So I am not in any way blaming the teachers or the schools. I think that the teachers and the schools have been working so hard. They've been doing the very best they can, but frankly, they're just not used to this model. It's new, and they're trying their best, but what's happening is they are pre-recording videos, and they are signing lessons or linking to online resources like Khan Academy. Then the students are on their own usually, or there's like a brief period of live interaction, but usually on their own. The kids are then expected to work through these lessons. And then there's very little information that gets back to the teacher to see that the student is actually doing those worksheets correctly, that the students they're not actually looking at the student's work in any methodical way. So if you think about the classroom experience, if your child is in the classroom, the teacher is constantly circulating through the classroom, looking over each child's shoulder to see that they're doing the math problem correctly, to correct them. Every couple of minutes, they're there to correct them. This is not what's happening in this distance learning model. There's very little information actually getting back to the teacher to see that the students are making the progress that they need. Now, in contrast, what we're doing, and that's why you mentioned the gold standard, we meet with kids one-on-one, and we set up this whole system of cameras. So we have not only the camera that's facing the child, so you can see their face and their facial expressions, whether they're understanding things, but we also have a doc cam that is facing down on their work. So the teacher, our teacher, can literally see the child as they're handwriting, whether it's math or language arts, or whether it's focused on the textbook and they're reading. We are doing everything we can to mimic what we would do firsthand live if we were in the classroom together. So that's one of the big things, is trying to get information back to either your current teacher or get information back to like a supplementary service like ours, like TutorCore, Pacific Preparatory, where you can actually help dive in and get into the details of what your kid is actually doing, what progress they're actually making.
That's helpful. And what are some tips specifically that you have for parents who are both working and can't necessarily oversee their children's remote learning situation?
This is super tough. My wife's a physician and an essential healthcare worker at UCSF. I, as you know, am the head of school at Pacific Preparatory and TutorCore, so I'm working full time. We have three young children, and it's a very tough time. I know each family's individual circumstances are different, so as much as possible, if you can set up a structure and routine that basically allows the parents to work and also allows the kids to focus on their learning in a way that gives the kids and the parents breaks. So one thing that I would see is like setting up in the morning a routine where if your school has, a setup where sometimes they meet online for the first 30 minutes in a Zoom call, you have the kids set up, you have a schedule written down, maybe on the fridge or on a Google Doc, so that the kids know where they have to be, and as much as possible, keep that schedule the same Monday through Friday, and then be realistic. Maybe maybe your family is not generally into watching media, watching TV shows, but maybe there are breaks in the day where, you know, kids have a learning break where they do get to watch a 30-minute show as a reward. And then there's some time where they can go outside in the backyard to play for half an hour. Setting up even game times like playing checkers or chess or other games. These are very educational opportunities. So working in all these things, and if you have other like grandparents or friends that can engage your kids on Zoom, meeting with them and setting up regular meetings with them to learn, that can also help and provide some support if you have those people in your life.
What are some resources for parents right now who are looking to supplement their work, the work that their kids are doing at school to make sure they're at grade level in the core subject areas?
Yeah, as I alluded to before, this is a main concern of mine for my own kids and as an educator, you know, for all students. As a parent myself, I want to know, what do my kids need to know for their grade level, and are they learning it? And the best way to do that is to engage with a professional educator like me or my team, so that we can run an assessment and see if the child actually knows the material. If you want to do this on your own, what I would suggest is just going to get a grade level assessment. So like if we say take second grade math, we would go to a site like edhelper.com or another assessment site, and you could just download the second grade math comprehensive assessment, and then your child could take that test and see what material they do or do not know and whether they're covering it. So it's getting into the details to really look at what the concepts are and making sure that we're double checking it. And I know some parents can do that on their own. And if it feels overwhelming, then just you can reach out to another service like ours or any other that could provide that kind of assessment. And it usually would take like 1 hour to administer and 1 hour to grade. So we're not talking about a long, lengthy process here.
Can you tell me about students that you're working with right now and how your instructors are helping them during this time?
Yeah, we're working with kids from K through 12th grade. So for example, if we take Lucy, Lucy's one of our current students, and she's being helped with AP biology. Her school basically is not providing the support that she feels she needs to be prepared for the AP test. She's still going to need to be responsible for all the content. So through Pacific Preparatory, we're actually making sure that she covers all the content necessary for AP biology. And we're meeting with her online 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We have that doc cam that she uses so we can see exactly what she's working on live and be providing that instant feedback to her.
That makes sense. What about in this whole era of pre-recording videos that the schools are doing and sending links to lessons and worksheets? How can parents help their students learn in this model?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think it's definitely it's better than nothing. We know the teachers are doing their best and they're pushing that material out. But as I said, the key is really advocating for your child, making sure that they connect back with the teacher, even like taking your phone and taking pictures of their assignments and sending those back to the teacher and asking for feedback. So really advocating as much as possible to get feedback on how your child is actually doing on that work, as opposed to simply checking it off as completed. So if the teacher just sends the lesson, the child does it, it's completed, it's done. But what we really want to know is at the granular level, are they making any mistakes? Like, did they forget to carry the 1 in the math problem? Did they forget the I before E rule in their spelling? Like, that's what we really want to know so that they can learn, not just checking it off the list.
And how many hours a day would you recommend students spend receiving instruction? How does online learning specifically affect students with learning differences? And then can we leverage technology to improve learning outcomes?
Good questions. I think so much depends on each child's attention span. So if you take a neurotypical student, um, a student who doesn't have ADHD, we generally say that the elementary students can focus for 1 to 2 hours a day on online doing lessons. Middle school students 2 to 3 hours a day, and high school students 3 to 4 hours a day. Now, of course, that needs to be individualized because each child, you might have a high schooler that is more able to do 2 hours rather than 3 to 4. So those are just general guidelines. In terms of learning differences, what I would say is, like, if we take, for example, that student that has ADHD, we would want to see how long they can focus before becoming distracted and needing a break. One thing that I would say is break things into smaller chunks. In that schedule that you're creating, instead of saying you're going to do a Zoom session for 2 hours, that sounds super painful and unrealistic. Instead, they could do a Zoom session for half an hour, then take a 20-minute break to do something else, maybe some physical activity, then come back in and do another half-hour Zoom session. And because we're working online in terms of leveraging technology, logistically, if like we have a tutor drive to your home, it's not that reasonable to have them come for, say, 20 minutes or half an hour and then just hang out for an hour doing nothing and then jump back in. But because we're online working with multiple students, we could actually come in, meet for half an hour, have a 2-hour break, and meet for half an hour again. So everything can be customized a little bit more for kids with learning differences. I think it also helps, again, to just be realistic and to make sure that the kids are getting enough, whether if they're fidgeting, maybe they have something like a manipulative that they're playing with, squishy balls, things like that, little fidget spinners, or they're actually, like, sometimes we take just 3 to 4 minute breaks. Like, we work for 15 minutes, then we get up, we actually take a stretch break for 3 to 4 minutes, and then we get back into it. So really doing kind of the same kind of differentiated instruction that we would do in the classroom, but in some ways we have even more capacity to adjust online.
Great. What's the story, by the way, behind Tutor Core Foundation scholarships, and how many students have you served there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I started the Tutor Core Foundation in 2004 as part of a corporate philanthropy model where we really want to be able to serve all types of students. So the Tutor Core Foundation focuses on under-resourced kids, and we provide one-to-one tutoring, just like our regular tutoring. It's just one-to-one. They meet every week consistently with the same tutor, so that tutor gets to know them, build rapport, be a mentor as well as a tutor. We've served about 78 students over the last years since 2004, and we're looking to grow. It's relatively small, but each year our goal is to serve 10 students, and we would rather serve a smaller number of students and meet every week consistently for the entire school year than serve a larger number of students with less frequency.
I have another question. That's very helpful to know. I have another question. How would you specifically recommend supporting a student with executive functioning challenges?
Yeah, well, I do think this is more of a challenge than in a typical classroom, where in the classroom, if a student has executive functioning challenges and they're might also be having trouble focusing and figuring out how to plan things out, you have the teacher that is basically able to stop by their desk every couple of minutes and make sure they're on task, make sure they understand what's coming up next in the plan. And so it is a challenge because the teachers are not there to check in on the student. I do think that's where getting support from an outside source, whether it's like, if one parent is not working, they could provide that support, or a grandparent or a tutor who can come in and really help on a daily basis to do that. The one advantage of working online is we do have more digital tools. So our tutors can help support a child that has executive functioning challenges by consistently sharing their screen and looking at Google Docs and the Google Calendar to really get into what assignments they have to do today, making sure that they know what the plan is, making sure that they have opportunities to check in with their teacher, with their tutor, with their parents. So I do think it is harder than in person with executive functioning challenges, but we do have some tools that we can use in terms of calendaring and focusing.
Wonderful. And how can parents take advantage of summer to help their kids stay on track?
Yeah, this is, just a brave new world. Everyone is trying to figure out when schools are going back into session. Gavin Newsom just talked about having schools potentially start in July. I do think that since summer programs, summer camps are most likely to be canceled, it is a great opportunity for students to catch up and make sure that they're prepared when they do return to school. I'd go back to that comment that I said before about assessments. Start with an assessment to make sure you know what your child needs to learn, and then focus on delivering that content, whether it's through your classroom teacher in distance learning or whether it's through PAC Prep or one of our tutors.
Very good. And how can one-to-one instruction supplement students' distance learning plans, say right now if they're getting distance learning through their school or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great comment. I would say that many of our students right now are getting support with their distance learning. So it's basically you're getting your curriculum, you're getting your lesson plans from your teacher, from your public school or your independent school, and then you basically don't have someone that's there to help you. If your parents are both working and, especially teenagers are resistant to help from their parents, it's great to have a tutor that can come in and provide that one-on-one support, because the kids aren't as readily able to ask their teacher for help. It's just, there's that barrier. The teacher's not there in the classroom. So it's literally having that support structure with someone who they can ask how to do this question, how to do this problem. It's so helpful. I mean, I think personally, my wife and I were wondering whether we wanted to have Charlotte and Milo, our two kids, get that support, or whether it was going to be enough for them to get the material from distance learning. And once we actually signed them up with TutorCore, we were like, oh my God, this is the best thing we ever did. I mean, my wife said, I'm the wife of the owner of the company, and I didn't realize how helpful this would be. It's like night and day.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And look, for our viewers and listeners, we have a complimentary offer, which is a consultation with Pacific Prep's Dean of Students to create a personalized learning plan. And just so that your audience understands, Jesse, if they email info@pacificpreparatory.com or call 314-PAC-PREP, they can get through and reserve that offer. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's our pleasure to be able to help families in our community. And again, this is an opportunity, complimentary, to call in to talk about whatever challenges you're facing. Explain to us what currently is going on for your child's academics, what is going on in your distance learning, because there's so many, every school and every teacher is different in terms of what they're delivering and how they're delivering it. And then we can come up with a learning plan that's customized for your child and recommend next steps.
Well, this has been just extremely helpful. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience has too. And I just want to thank you, Jesse, so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you, David. It's my pleasure to be here, and just great to talk with you.